Welcome back to Your Life by Design. I wanted to spend some time simplifying human design for you. This idea for this episode came after a conversation I had with a friend who we've talked a lot about human design. I've walked her through human design, and she recently told me that she still feels very overwhelmed with her human design chart. And the last thing I want someone to feel is overwhelmed when it comes to human design. Because when you feel overwhelmed, your mind is not going to attach any value to it. It's not going to feel free or clear. Two things have to happen for your mind to attach value to something. One, your mind has to see that it's good to have done. It is good to have done and possible to do. So if your mind doesn't see that something is good to have done, or if your mind doesn't feel like it is possible to do, it will not attach value. When your mind attaches value to something, it'll eventually attach interest and appeal. And so when you're feeling overwhelmed, your mind is not going to attach any value because it doesn't feel like it's good to do. It's not good to take on something else when you're feeling overwhelmed. And it may not even feel possible to do because you have so much on your plate. And so it just won't. It will be one of those things where it might just constantly be going one ear out the other, right? Like the Charlie Brown teacher, the wah wah. Because your mind is not attaching value to it. So in order for your mind to feel free and clear, in order for you to attach interest and have appeal towards something, your mind has to see that it's good to have done and possible to do. And what I want to do is simplify human design so your mind can get behind that it's good to know this and possible to know this. And we do that by simplifying human design. Now, I will be the first one to tell you human design, or maybe not the first one, but I will say human design is a massive tool, a massive tool. And I've taken a certification program in it. I am a certified human design reader through the Human Design Academy. And I did that, I believe it was 2 years ago when I started the process. And the course was created that if someone wanted to do it within a few weeks, like spending a few hours each weekend, they can go through it and complete the modules and everything and do the submissions for it. I took 9 months to do it because I'm also a speech therapist. This wasn't my only job as learning human design. I have 2 kids, I'm married, I have a lot of hats that I wear. So I took my time, but I also had a lot of integration time where I would learn a certain thing and then okay, let me embody this, let me integrate this. I didn't want to just rush through it just for the sake of rushing through it, although I would take as much as I wanted to learn. So if I wanted to learn about the human design types and centers and not about the gates, I would just do that, do a few readings, integrate it, come back and learn more. So I took my time. It took 9 months. So when I'm doing a human design reading with someone and we're in a 90-minute reading, I don't expect you to learn everything and absorb everything. Your mind cannot absorb 100% of everything. And we all know this. If you've taken any courses or professional seminar courses, there's only a certain percentage that your mind will retain. With that being said, that's why I give a blueprint and a recording of it so you can have access to reflect back to it. But I don't ever want human design to feel overwhelming. I don't ever want your subconscious mind to not see value in it because human design is it is a massive tool, but human design is an incredible tool. It is a tool that allows you to really understand your purpose in this lifetime, to really understand your gifts, to really understand what you're here to do. It's what separates you from every other person there. Human design is your blueprint. And so it's important to be able to know your human design. If you're wanting to have a shift, if you're wanting to expand, human design is going to be one of those tools that's going to help you. And so, what I want to do is talk about 3 or 4 things. I think I have 4 here. 4 ways to simplify human design. So then you don't feel overwhelmed. Okay. So let's take an example of cleaning your room. You're probably someone who likes walking into a clean, organized room. You may be someone who doesn't like cleaning or organizing. right? The idea of having to do all the steps to put all the laundry away and declutter and dust and vacuum and make your bed and all that stuff seems probably seems like it's not possible to do. And so your mind doesn't attach value to it. But if you're able to take one step, okay, let's put your laundry away. It would be good to have done that. And it's possible to do. Let's do it. And then at that point, you can reassess, do I want to do the next thing or am I okay with that? So, what I want to do with human design is like peel it away and just take a couple things from it. So, you don't feel obligated to know everything. But what are some heavy hitters that can allow you to begin to embody these gifts of who you are and what you're meant to do here? So, the first thing that I think it's really important is to know your human design type. We're not going to stop there. And I don't want you to stop there because there's only 5 types. There's over 7 billion people in the world. You are, you have more gifts and more uniqueness than any other person, right? Like we can't compare. It's like you have your thumbprint, right? You have your DNA, like that's your energetic blueprint. It is, it's your uniqueness. And so if you stop yourself at a category where, 32% of the population share that, where do your gifts come up? So it's important to know, but it's not the only thing you should know. So in the Simplifying Human Design, I'm going to share some really big, I would imagine, easy to understand concepts that actually can make some really powerful shifts when you look through that lens. We are going to start with human design. What is your human design type? Are you a manifester, manifesting generator? Are you a generator, projector, reflector? And to find this, just go Google human design calculator. And then there's all kinds of websites that come up, like Jovian Archive is one, Genetic Matrix is one, where you can just plug in your information and it comes up and you can see what you are. I have a few episodes already on this podcast where I dive deep into the human design type. So I'm not going to spend that right now, or I'm not going to talk about that right now. But what I do want to talk about is certain things that really define that type. And I want you to maybe sit, ponder, journal, whatever that work looks like for you, to see how that feels to be that type, right? Like when I found out I was a manifesting generator, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. A big pillar about manifesting generators is that they're not meant to be linear. And they often feel conditioned that they have to be linear and pick a path. And there can be a lot of resistance around that because their energy might be wanting to guide them into something else, but that might be different from what they're doing. And all this resistance can come up. But when you find out that you're a manifesting generator, that you're meant to follow that energy and that flow, and eventually it makes sense, then that deconditioning process can start. Same thing like with a projector. Projectors don't have that connection to that sacral energy to a motor center. So they don't have that abundant sacral energy and they need a lot of rest. And I know people who are projectors who their mantra is success is in the rest. Like when they rest and honor their energy, they're more likely to have more success because there's less resistance. But the conditioning behind the projector is that they have to keep going and doing and ignoring the rest because they feel like they have to hustle, right? So what does it feel like to be the type that you are? Does it resonate? How can you show up in that type a little bit more? What happens when you don't show up as that? What are those life lessons that you've learned that you can reflect back on as reminders as to why it's important to honor your energy? So type is like the first thing it's important for you to know. And along with that is authority. So each type has a strategy and authority. If you want, you can learn your strategy too. I think authority helps for you to make those more aligned decisions, like your inner GPS that helps you guide to where you're going. There are 5 inner authorities and 2 external authorities that are more like environmental. And so find out what your authority is, because if you are if you are a reflector, for example, and your authority is 28 days, which basically means you need time to make a decision, like a big decision, like a career change, a move, not something small, like what are you gonna eat for dinner, but like a big change, you need time because with the reflector, their decision-making process, their authority follows the phase of the moon. And each phase can impact the way that they feel about a decision. And so it's checking in with themselves. If we're going to get textbook, it's checking in with themselves throughout those 28 days. And then at the end, they're able to get more clarity on this decision. It doesn't necessarily have to be 28 days. It could also be like a couple of weeks, whatever feels right. And that's the other thing I forgot to mention at the beginning. Like, human design is not a science, you guys. It's not, it does use science, it does use like quantum physics, and it has like psychology. So it does use some sciences, but it's not a science. And it's not, this is textbook how it is. It's a lot, it's an experiment. So it's very experiential. It's, how does it feel? Does it resonate with you? If it doesn't resonate, it's okay. Maybe journal on like, why does it resonate? What part of it resonates? So it's, how do you experiment with it? And through experimentation is when this embodiment piece comes in. It's when you're able to integrate it. So for me, with my authority, I am an emotional authority, which means I also have to take time to make a decision, not like a reflector. Mine is like probably a couple days, but it's basically wanting to get to clarity in this decision. So when you have an emotional authority, there's an emotional wave, right? If you think of like an ocean with a wave, you have your peak and then you have your crash. A wave doesn't last forever, an emotion doesn't last forever. And your emotional wave, you can be at the high point of it and feel really good about something, like you want to say yes, or you can be at the low point of a wave, of this emotional wave, and feel crappy about it and want to say no. But clarity is when you get to that neutrality, when you're able to get to where the wave settles out. And so that happens over time, whether you sleep on it, you wait a couple of days. And so because your solar plexus is located in your stomach, like around your belly button area, just above your belly button, for me, I feel it. And a lot of people who have an emotional authority will feel it in their stomach. And especially if you have even like a defined sacral with it, you might feel like this whirling sensation, right? Sacral and spleen and splenic authority are more like in the now. Splenic is more like intuitive knowing, whereas sacral is also a feeling, but it's like this feeling. So for me, I actually have a defined spleen, a defined sacral, and a defined solar plexus. So I have all three, but what I need to listen to is that solar plexus. So something might feel really good right now, and my sacral is, oh, this is amazing. And that could also be because my emotional wave, I'm at the high part, right? So I want to get to that neutrality. And I remember I've shared the story before, especially when we talked about authority on the podcast, but I remember a few years ago being presented, it was a couple of years ago, being presented with an opportunity to join this business. It was like a network marketing business that was starting from the ground up. It was a business that had already been around for a while, that people were already having success with, but they were just changing the business model to a multi-level marketing model. And I got swept up with following this projector. I love projectors. I feel like when they respond to something, like they have that success, and I'm like, oh well, this projector's doing it, then I'm gonna do it. Like, it was, I was making decisions externally, not internally, based on conditioning, based on fear of missing out. There was a lot of that conditioning and that programming around. But I remember when she was talking to me about it, I always say like my sacral and my solar plexus flatlined. Like, I felt nothing. And that should have been my cue right there, but I decided to ignore it because I didn't want to miss out. And so what ended up happening was, anytime we got together for a meeting, of like a meeting of the minds, and let's learn this platform and all this stuff, I would either not show up, or I would show up and be like, why am I even here? Like, I don't want to be here. I have no idea what's going on. I'm so confused. And so I had to have this moment of, okay, I'm not honoring my authority. Clearly, my authority is telling me that this is not for me. So I'm going to bow out and say, no, thank you. And when I did, it was like this huge weight got lifted off my shoulders. I often think back on that, on what was my sign, what was my cue, my internal cue that was letting me know this wasn't the right decision for me. And so when I have opportunities like that come my way, when someone says something and I don't really feel, oh, I don't really want to say yes, I reflect back on that. Like, here's what happened when you said yes when you didn't want to. So learn your authority. You can learn your strategy of what to respond to. Like, for this episode, it was like me responding to this question of, like basically how do you simplify human design? I'm like, should I do a podcast on this? Yes, this would be like a really good idea. So this kind of started the process, and the words are just flowing out of my mouth. The thoughts are coming. Like I have this really great idea of how to share it. So this is what happens when you lean into that human design type, right? Lean into your authority. So type and authority are really important, and it's important to, like I said, like experiment with it, even sit with it. Take 1 week and like journal on what does it mean to be a projector? How does that feel? How does that show up in your life? What does it mean to be like a sacral generator, have that sacral authority? What does it look like when you honor that? What does it look like when you don't honor that? How does it feel for you? So the way for these sacral and solar plexus respond to yes, no questions. Splenic is more intuitive. It's a knowing, but it's like the sacral and the solar plexus respond to yes, no questions. So experiment with that. Have someone, if you're trying to figure out, if you're new to this, a great way to learn about this or experiment with it is through food and drinks, right? Because we all got to eat. We all have our favorite foods that we like to eat. We all know what we enjoy. And so instead of someone saying, what should we have for dinner? Throw out different ideas. Have someone ask you, do you want pizza for dinner? No, like my stomach, my sacral, that area, my solar plexus, I don't feel it. Do you want Thai food? Oh my gosh. Yes. And get familiar how your body is communicating with you. So you can take a week on exploring with that. Okay. So we're going to move on to where other gifts are. And this is the part I freaking love about human design. I think you're selling yourself short when you stop at human design type and authority. That might not be a popular opinion, but that's how I feel. Like when I do these readings, it's like when I dive into it, I call it like the little nuggets in your human design, like where your gifts are nestled into like the crevices of your human design. I feel like that's where like things just make sense. And a lot of times with human design, it's this recognition and validation of gifts that you have that maybe you didn't realize that you have. So when we look at our human design chart, if you were to pull it up, you'll see a lot of things because it's like massive. You would see almost like the middle part would be like the side profile of a face, and then you would have triangles and circles and diamond, maybe not circles, but squares, triangles, diamonds. It depends on where you're bringing up your chart. But you do have a mix of shapes in the middle. Those are your centers. And then you have to the right of your chart, you have these black squares with symbols that are astrological signs, and then numbers, which are your gates. And so the black squares to the right represent your conscious side. So anywhere in your chart where you see one shape connected to another shape or one center connected to another center, and there's a line, like a black line that connects it, that line, like a solid filled in line, that line is a channel, and it's connecting one center to the next. And if you look over to your left, you'll see red squares with astrological signs and gates, and the red is your unconscious. So you can look at your chart where it's red, that might be connecting centers. You might have a connection, or you might have a combination of a center that's half black, half red. You might have a combination of both black and red together. You might have what's called like a hanging channel or a hanging gate, where one channel has a gate that's activated and you have a channel that doesn't complete to the other side. All I want you to look at with this is where in your chart do you have a complete channel that's black. You might not have it, and we'll deal with that in a second. But for simplicity purposes, because I am simplifying human design, where in your chart do you have a center connected to another center with a solid black channel? And the reason why I want to go there is because that is your conscious channel. That is like a conscious channel that's in your conscious design. And so that is what you are aware of. That is what you know to be true. And a lot of times in my experience and in doing readings for other people, it just makes sense. Oh my gosh, I never thought, yeah, that's why it's so easy. And usually with these channels, things come so easy to us that we could be teased for it. We could be like, oh my gosh, what are you even doing? And then we create this story. You create this story or this limiting belief that you need to hide that because no one gets you, right? No one understands me. And I don't even understand myself while I do this. So I'm going to talk about two channels, defined conscious channels in my chart that I just friggin' love. I love my chart. It just makes so much sense to me. So one of them I talk about a lot, and I think I talked about it in the last episode, but I know I've talked about it a few times. It's the 1222 channel. And the 1222 channel is the channel of openness. It connects your throat center to your solar plexus. So it connects your communication, your voice, like your throat, to your emotional center. For me, how that has shown up all of my life is this need to speak my emotions, speak my feelings, let people know if there's anything that's in jest or something that's not, that I don't agree with, to share that. It can also feel like if there's something going on that I need to talk about and I don't, I feel very, it's pressure. I've often said I feel like I'm going to explode unless I talk about it. Talking is very alchemizing to me, which it can be very alchemizing to a lot of people, but that's how I interpret this channel as well. It's very alchemizing because I'm able to alchemize the feelings around it. Also, what I love about this channel is when I'm saying something and I'm in flow with it, people resonate with what I have to say. And I've been told that time and time again. Like I've heard people say, whether it's like me talking about speech therapy, me talking about human design, like whatever it is, if I have the right audience listening, they're hanging on every word. And so when I found out about that, I'm like, this makes so much sense. Like I used to question, should I say something, almost question the, like my voice, my communication, and almost wanting to quiet down and not say anything because people felt uncomfortable when I would speak up, or there were people who didn't want me to say anything. And so it got to a point where I would just like have second thoughts on like, should I say this? And so knowing this in my human design, it just made sense. I'm like, and so now I embrace this gift. Now I know it is a gift. So you better believe I'm going to like speak up and share my thoughts, and knowing that this is a gift and I'm going to embody it. Also, in my human design chart, just for little shits and giggles, the 12 in that channel is my part of my conscious earth sign, which kind of plays a really big role. It's grounding to my sun. So it plays a really big role in my theme anyways. So it makes sense for me that like I love that channel shows up very prevalent in my life. Another conscious channel that I have is the 6447. And I believe that channel it's called the channel of abstraction. And this one shows up all the time. And it's also, again, where I'm like, why am I like this? Like, why? So 6447 is all about asking questions and finding answers, and questions that don't really relate, or people may not care about it and they may not see the importance, but you feel compelled to know the answer to it. Like I remember reading one of my human design reference books, and it says something like the 6447 is explained like something to the effect of, if a tree falls in the forest, is no one to hear it, did it actually fall? And who really cares? Someone with this channel does. That you want to know. And that's totally me. When I'm at professional seminar courses, I will be the one that will raise my hand all the time and ask questions. And before I do that, I'll often ask the person next to me and say, what did the presenter say? Or what does she mean by that? And the person next to me would be like, I don't know. And it would always bug me because how do you not know? Like, how are you okay with not knowing? Like, I needed to know. So I'll raise my hand and ask the question. And one of three things will happen when I ask that question. One, it's a good timing of that question. And the presenter will say, like, that's a great question that actually is perfect to segue into what we're about to talk about. So I'm going to answer it right now to lean into that. Or I'll get the answer like, or response, that's a really great question. I've never thought of it that way. Here's my answer. Or, and this has been known to happen, I would get like this look in their face of, you're interrupting my flow of my presentation again. You have another question you have to ask. And it happens all the time. And I'm like, oh shit. But this is that 6447 I need to know. Or I'll have a conversation with my husband and I'll ask him something he's got, it's not relevant. I'm like, it's not relevant to you, but it really helps me understand. Understanding my human design helps me see where that like why I'm like that at 64:47. And I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to be like, oh crap, should I ask that question? Shouldn't I? That's part of my gift. I'm able to understand things in a way that I can explain. I'm able to see connections with things. And I had someone point that out to me recently, how good I am with seeing patterns and seeing connections. And that's that 64:47. So knowing that human design, that channel for me, really helped me embody my chart a little bit. So where is it that black channel for you? If you don't have any black channels and you just have red, then that's just it. Look up on the you can Google on the different charts too, or message me. I'm happy to do a human design reading as well. But where that red channel is, it just means it's in your unconscious. So you may not be aware of, it may not be something that is as salient. Oh, that, yeah, totally get that. It might be something where you have to think about a little bit more. But where are those channels? How are you using those channels? How do those channels show up for you? What happens when you have used them? How can you use them more? Again, experiential. How can you lean more into those channels, and what do they mean for you? So we have human design type, authority, and channels. And the last thing I'm going to say with in regards to simplifying your human design, if you notice, I'm not talking about any of the centers. I'm just going to go into just some really easy things to look up. Is your conscious sun? I feel like this is not talked about nearly enough. If you go to human design, Instagram human design pages and sites, they'll talk about centers. They'll talk about your personality profile. They'll talk about your design type. They'll talk about your authority. Very rarely do they talk about your conscious sun. And I would imagine because there's 64 gates, so there's one of 64 options for your conscious sun. So in terms of Instagram posts, it's not as easy as doing 5 posts or the different posts for the personality profiles. But the conscious sun is really important. And in my opinion, probably more important than your design type and authority. And the reason for that is your conscious sun makes up 70% of your whole entire energy. It like how you're navigating the world, how you're showing up, your gifts. 70% of that comes from your conscious sun. It also is part of your incarnation cross. So your purpose here, your conscious earth is grounding to your conscious sun. So be able, in order to access your conscious sun, you have to almost like master your conscious earth. And then once you have those two, then it moves on to the unconscious earth and sun. But those 4 gates contribute to your incarnation cross, but it's really that conscious sun that plays the biggest role with it. So I want you to look up the conscious sun. What gate is it? Don't worry about the point. It might be like 32.5 is your conscious sun. Don't worry about the dot number. Just look at what that gate is and how does that show up for you. Again, quick Google search. If you've had a human design reading from me, I go into that depth with the signature human design reading. So that would be in your blueprint. But look at that. So for me, my conscious sun is gate 11. And gate 11 is in my ajna. It's all about ideas and explaining ideas and concepts and sharing it with others, which so many aspects in my chart really lean to ideation. And ideation, whenever I've done personality, like strengths finders, ideations always come up as like within the top 5, probably my top 2. So it's all about ideas, explaining concepts. And so I'm like, oh, that makes sense that this is in my conscious, like that this is like a huge role. So where is that in your chart? What center is it in? And then just learn it. And again, journal on it. How does it feel to show up in that? What does it mean? What does it look like? What happens when you lean into that? For me, it feels really good, like very flowy when I'm explaining concepts that I understand myself and I'm explaining to others. It feels very flowy. It's very magnetic for me. It's very clearing for me and alchemizing. Like I love it. I feel I'm on my element. And my incarnation cross is the incarnation cross of education. So again, teaching concepts. And you'll see that like your conscious sun, if you were to explore a little bit more into your incarnation cross, there's a big overlap between incarnation cross and what your conscious sun is because it plays that big of a role. So just see what that is for you. Again, stick with it for a week. Embody it, journal it. What does it look like when you're living it? Don't worry about anything else. Just what does that feel like? To recap the four things to simplifying your human design chart, the four things that I suggest starting with is your type, of course, and then your authority. And if you want to play around with your strategy because they all go together, you can do that. Then your conscious channels, if you have any of those. If not, look at your unconscious, look at your channels and where they are. And then your conscious sun, because it plays such a huge role in your energy. And then let me know, how does that feel? Does that feel a little bit more manageable, a little bit more easy, a little bit more flowy with your human design? Does it feel less obligatory? When anything feels obligatory, pressure, our mind is not going to attach value to it. We're going to be in resistance, right? We want to do things where our mind feels it's possible to do and good to have done. And so when we simplify this, your mind is able to then attach interest and appeal to it. And then when you're attached interest and appeal, you're able to like have it stick more, right? Because now your mind is free and clear to be able to attach that. You're not in the survival mode. You're not feeling resistance around it. You're feeling very easy. So let me know how that goes. If you're wanting to learn a little bit more, I have a couple things I want to talk to you about. One, I just had a masterclass, The Shift, which does combine human design. It comes with this really detailed guide to help walk through the human design part. I walk you through some subconscious mind clearing so you can feel free and clear to be able to embody that human design. And that is, you can grab instant access to that. So the link will be in the show notes for that. If you want to just get it, I think it's just $33 to be able to have access to it. If you're ready to go deeper, if you're wanting to, okay, I'm ready to just go all in. I want to really learn my human design. I want to really clear a lot of my beliefs. I'm ready to lean into my expansion and my evolution. Then I have my signature one-on-one program, Meet Your Edge. And it's a 3-part call. I call them 3 edges, really detailed. Each one is about 90 minutes long, where we're going to dive deep into your human design. We're going to dive deep into your subconscious mind. So at the end of it, you're ready to meet that edge. You're ready to like step over the edge and meet this vision that you have for yourself. Feeling good, feeling free, feeling clear to do that. So that will be in the show notes as well. And of course, if you have any questions, message me on Instagram. Happy to answer them. If you have any questions that you would want me to answer on the podcast, I'm happy to do that as well. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.